Despite claims brought forward by pro-government media outlets suggesting that private prep schools, or dershanes, cannot continue to operate even though the Constitutional Court on Monday annulled a law that sought to close them down, judicial experts have said there is no legal obstacle before these schools to continue their operations. The Constitutional Court announced its long-awaited decision on Monday evening, annulling the law by a 5-12 majority vote on the grounds that the law represented a violation of constitutional articles related to the right to education and freedom of labor. The Justice and Development Party, AK Party, had pressed ahead with the controversial legislation in 2013 that was signed into a law by then-President Abdullah Gül in March 2014. The law, which states that prep schools will be allowed to operate until September 1, 2015, was challenged by the main opposition Republican People's Party, CHP, at the Constitutional Court last year, saying it was a blow to the right to free enterprise. Pro-government newspapers such as Yeni Şafak and Star have been running stories since Tuesday criticizing the top court for its dershane ruling and claiming that these institutions will still be unable to operate. Professor Ergun Özbudan, an expert on constitutional law, told today's Zaman, since the law has been annulled, the activities of prep courses are now free to continue. The Constitutional Court based its ruling on the right to education and free enterprise which are guaranteed in the Constitution. Özbudan also described the claims by the pro-government media outlets as being extremely nonsense and illogical, saying the top court's decision would not mean anything if dershanes cannot continue to operate. The Constitutional Court underlined in its verdict that the amendment in the education law that seeks to abolish prep schools is against Articles 13, 42, and 48 of the Constitution. Drawing attention to the fact that Article 13 notes the conditions under which fundamental rights and freedoms may be restricted, the court said the law in question was not in line with the requirements of the article. The court also said the law was in violation of Articles 42 and 48 of the Constitution, which address the right to education and freedom of labor, respectively. Former Supreme Court of Appeals President Sami Selçuk, commenting on the allegations of pro-government newspapers, said in remarks to the Rota Haber news portal that such claims are nonsensical assessments. How on earth can something like that, prep courses being unable to operate, happen? These are nonsense and biased evaluations, they are not objective and scientific, Selçuk said. Constitutional law expert Associate Professor Semen Sebi said the lack of a law that outlines the activities of prep schools would not be an obstacle for the operations of prep schools. He said this situation allows prep schools and other educational institutions to greatly benefit from their constitutional rights and freedoms. The Education Ministry last year eliminated all the articles related to the establishment of prep schools in the relevant legislation. There can no longer be an amendment that is against the ruling of the top court. In true states of law, freedoms are the norm while restrictions are an exception, he said. On Wednesday, officials from the Education Ministry held a meeting with representatives from prep schools. Making a statement following the 3-hour-long meeting, Union of Private Preparatory Schools, ZDEBR, Chairman Faruk Koprulu, who spoke on behalf of prep schools representatives, said ministry officials told them prep schools that converted into standard high schools would continue to operate as standard high schools and there will be no problems there. With regards to whether standard high schools would be able to serve as prep schools again, Koprulu said the ministry officials told them they need to review the top court's reasoned decision first in order to answer this question. The AK party government introduced the initiative that sought to close down prep schools as a transformation process into private schools in which the state would pay incentives to those turning into private schools for each student they have. Some prep courses have already converted into private educational institutions. In the meantime, Interim Prime Minister Ahmet Davutoğlu said on Wednesday his government respects the top court's dershane decision. Speaking during a live interview with the NTV News channel, Davutoğlu said, "We respect the decision that emerged from the court. Be it from the Constitutional Court, the Supreme Court of Appeals or the Council of State, we respect whichever legal process there is. Since the reasoned decision of the dershane ruling has not yet been announced, it is not right to comment on it for now." The interim Prime Minister also said although they respect the court's decision that annulled the law seeking to close down prep schools, the government needs to discuss the appropriateness of the ruling, what it will lead to and find the necessary solutions. There are many prep courses that concluded their transformation into other educational institutions. They should not be victimized, said Abdullah